Hello, Deep Mindfulness Collective. This right here, right now, is the joy of being a live stream coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York. And if you're joining us anywhere other than twitch.tv/deepmindfulness, well, geez Louise, you're in the wrong place. Folks, we're very excited about today. It is Freaky Friday, Freestyle Friday, where we make up the meditation as we go along, which is always fun. And we're going to hang out, have some fun, say hello, and see what's going on. Wanted to say hello to our co-host here, Deb. Many of you know Deb from her long years here. I think it's been over a year, actually, at this point we've had the live stream, so Deb has been standing guard for at least a portion of that time. I don't know if you can see this green monster over here, this mach. I think you can hear it. Oh yeah, sizzling mach. Little mustache mach action. Folks, I am delighted to be here with you. What is going on? What is the haps? Where are you at is my biggest question. Where are you at? Where are you coming from? And I'm trying to open up my own stream here. Where's my stream? Give me my stream. Oh, there we are. Welcome, folks. As you're trickling in here, where are you? Jesus Christ, where are you, man? What time is where are we? No, the year. Tomlin, where are you joining us from? Rory joining us from Kingston, Ontario. Nice to see you here. Brooklyn, New York, 2029. Okay, just want to make sure everyone's on the same year because we've had some time discrepancies recently, so just let us also know where you are, what year you're in. Beautiful silver hair is here with us from Kansas. Lovely. I wonder where in Kansas. I know I've been a little bit in Kansas on the Missouri, Kansas City, and then right across is Kansas City, Missouri, and then Kansas City, Kansas, I think across the bridge. Vancouver, Carl, what's up? Good to have you here. Nice to see you. Folks, I don't have the link with me right now. I should have the link. If anyone has the link, if you have it on hand. I did an interview last night, which was a delight. I got interviewed about my life and all that stuff. And it was lovely. Let's see. I don't want recommended channels. I want the channel that I had an interview on last night. Here we are. Copy link address. Okay, here we go. Here's the address. Is this. And that address has the interview that I did last night with a wonderful woman named Victoria Way. That was delightful. It was sort of interesting. I couldn't see her, but she could see me. But it was a fun interview, and I was quoted. There's a few clips there, so if you don't want to watch all the interview, there's a few clips that are interesting, which I discovered. Discovered like I'm friggin', I was going to say, I think I did discover it as though I were Christopher Columbus, which is not much of a discovery. If you're on the desktop, you hover over the image, the video here, there's a little clapboard, the kind of thing they use in movies, and that means you can take a clip of the video itself, of the thing we watch. So if ever I say something, you say, that was interesting, you can cut up to, I think, about 60 seconds on either side of when you hit that button, and it'll make a clip for you and for other people to see, which is delightful. That's a nice way of being of service. People are teaching me all this stuff about Twitch, which I think is very interesting. Another one was that people have said that I can create channel points, which are just points for people. I don't know what they do, but if you get certain ones, you can do certain fun things. And then there was one other thing. Oh yeah, if you are a Tomlin, if you're listening to this, I'm not sure if you're here. If you have the link for the Amazon thing, if someone's a member of Amazon Prime, you can support this channel without paying anything. So we get support, and you don't have to pay anything. That also means you don't have to watch any commercials, which is lovely. All these things I'm learning with the platform that I'm dedicating my time on. So folks, we have a few people here. Vancouver, Kingston, Ontario, me from Brooklyn, and then we have Kansas. Okay, last chance to let us know where the hell you're coming from, because otherwise the looks like the battle is being won in these small four corners. Delicious. So be sure to have a little matcha before you begin meditating. It's the only way to meditate. And if you don't have matcha, you can, just skip it. That's how big of a rule it is. Delicious. Sporty Race Girl from Toronto. Well, listen, Canada's fully winning this one, so unless people chime in now, basically this is Canada. Canada has won this fight. Okay. So yeah, where are folks coming from? I have a new. I guided a friend, Gene from Brooklyn. All right, we're maybe going to win this one. Beep up is I guided a newcomer in a meditation recently, 10-minute beginning meditation. I think I might want to record that on the stream just because it was so much fun and it went so well. It was so simple and easy. So I might record that. Maybe I'll do that later in the stream if that feels like fun. So if you're a beginner, we like to do things backwards. We're going to have a beginner's meditation after the non-beginner's meditation. But if people are beginners, hello from Topanga, California. Annie, great to see you. If people are beginners and you're streaming or you're tuning in, let me know actually what your level of meditation experience is, medium, high, whatever. Let me know any challenges that you tend to have. Colt AZ from Canada, Nova Scotia here. All right, well, Canada's got a pretty good race going here. They might win this round. All of you Americans who we got to be the best. Now's the time to show up. No, forget about the election. Now, this is it. This is the moment you've been called on to act. And beep up is my train of thought is gone. We'll be doing a beginner's meditation after, and let me know any difficulties you're having in meditation. I'll include those in the guidance. So folks, when I guide a meditation, this might seem crazy, but I'm going to encourage folks to sit entirely still for the duration of the sit. There is a caveat, and I'll get to that in a moment. The reason we do this is that if we can train the body to be still, it over time helps us develop balance of the mind. So we're learning to balance the body based on gravity, and this helps in terms of having the mind not be bouncing all over the place. I used to say if we can make the body be still, we can make the mind be still, but I don't like that because I think the mind doesn't have to be still to have a lovely meditation. So I'm going to encourage entire stillness in the body, and if you need to move, you actually can. You just wait a couple of breath cycles and then move slowly if you need to. As well, if you have any background or with trauma or at any point it feels like it's too much, this rule does not apply to you. You feel free to adjust where you need to because you want to give yourself a wide berth. So with that said, finding a nice comfortable position that you can maintain for the duration of the sit, allowing the knees to be lower than the hips, sitting at the edge of whatever cushion or chair you're sitting on. If you'd like to lie down, that's also okay as long as you're not too sleepy. I suggest you take some final sips of your matcha. And when you're ready, we'll begin. All right. I'll wait for a verbal I'm ready from everyone who's on the stream before we begin. Go on. I want some ritual where I have people shouting at their computer screens every day. Okay, folks, here we go. Beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths and just feeling the body rise and fall. And as we're getting settled in, allow the breath to expand and move the body. So go ahead and breathe deeply if you'd like. A great deal of the body is adjusted and moved subtly when the body breathes deeply. So feel free to use this as a time to stretch. Again, letting the breath be the driver here. If we want to stretch up, following the elongating of the spine as the breath comes in, letting the head and neck elongate, leaving them a little higher than they were a moment ago. As we breathe in, the shoulders pull back usually, just slightly. So if we want to stretch the shoulders, letting the breath be that which opens the chest, stretches the shoulders. And then releasing all of the various muscle groups which are holding the body in any kind of stretch, and finding a balance point from the tailbone through the crown of the head. So the mind tends to think in the form of nouns, objects, things, imagining a specific moment in time in the future. Expectations are often nouns that are how things should be. And so our first task this morning is to observe the verb nature of our experiencing, the way that our experiencing is unfolding continuously at this moment. Even the way the mind produces these nouns, it's shaping our sense material, the mind's activity, the talking of the mind, the sense of space around us. The sense that there's a solid, continuous body. Anytime we notice a noun, seeing if we can soak into the process aspect of this. When our entire world is built of various nouns, the mind has to jump from one to the next, has to manage them. So the mind can be very jumpy, distracted by thoughts and sensations. Or if we observe the verb nature of our experience, we can even notice that the mind jumping from here to there itself is a process. So typically when we meditate, the mind is pulled to various objects of meditation, seeing, hearing, feeling. And so what we're going to do in this moment is each time we're pulled to any experience, we'll stay with that experience for a little while until we can get a sense of its process, function, its verb nature. And this isn't difficult task, just noticing something over time. Noticing that it's ongoing. This breaks down the imagined timeless quality of nouns. So whatever experience we're drawn to, even if it's a fully formed self or part, if it's a sound or mental, visual activity, emotion in the body, or simply observing it existing in time. It might even not seem like it's changing. It might seem like it's quite stable. So we're using time to observe it as a process. If it's helpful, we could even use a mental label coming in contact with anything, any thought or body sensation. Using the mental label time, being sure to recognize that the duration of saying the label itself is another indication of time. It is a process unfolding. Being sure not to make this an intellectual exercise, simply thinking about the process, or just observing this movement, or at least this seeming movement. The way that this particular moment feels like a wind passing through a hoop, changing shape and form, different configurations in any particular moment, and then it's gone, it's past this very thin threshold. As I'm doing this process, I'm noticing the mind trying to make things into nouns, trying to make this into an intellectual process. So to clarify, ultimately we're simply watching the movement of time, the movement of this moment. As though we're simply in a river with time rushing past. At any given moment, the mind will tend to assess how our practice is going. It's going well, it's going terribly. Perhaps we have a neutral assessment. Recognizing this assessment itself. Like it was a drop of paint falling into the same river. Simply a process moving, being rushed through and shaped by this river of time. If we'd like to use particular traditional terms, we can even split this experience, noticing everything as it appears and labeling that arising. This is as though we are facing upstream in this flow of time, watching everything as it appears the instant it comes into consciousness. If we're looking carefully, we can watch with a sense of where all of this material forms from, the kind of emptiness out of which the present moment experience coalesces. And if we'd like, we can observe the decay quality, the disappearing quality of all of this material as it collapses. This can be strange at first. The mind is primed to look at things as they appear. So without overly intellectualizing it, just watching the collapsing nature, the passing, the way each of these experiences is swept away. If the mind is looking for them to clearly disappear, it may be disappointed because we're observing an absence. So just letting your intuition do the work rather than trying to steer it with your mind. Tuning into the collapsing experience, the emptiness. one challenge that arises when we use this kind of metaphor, as though we're observing a stream moving by, is it can tend to solidify the sense of a viewer. So being sure to look for this sense of the center, that which this experience is happening to. And if we can, observing the same qualities of time, of arising, of passing. If there's a sense of directionality, often people who are from Western countries experience time as arriving from the right and moving towards the left. So considering this another kind of solidity, another way the mind is shaping raw sense data. Seeing if we can tune our awareness to include all of the directionality, all of the inside and outside, effectively turning our experience into this field of various pressures, not moving in any particular direction. Simply a field of turbulence. And if there is a sense of direction or a sense of a center, it's not a problem. Simply holding that within the context of all of the other sensing material. And staying connected with this sense of the arriving and the collapsing of experiencing. As we allow a tiny bit of light to enter the eyes, eventually allowing the eyes to rest on a single point as they fully open. And letting the momentum of this process, letting this be the great teacher, and that shows us how we might bring this practice into every aspect of our life. Okay. So, folks, making any adjustments you need to allow the body to be comfortable. And beep pop up, beep pop up. Oh, folks, who's here to ruin my follower count? It looks like I'm just looking now. I have exactly 269 followers. That's exactly where it is. Nobody else follow. Because if you do, you've ruined our perfect immature joke. If you do want to follow, you just hit that little heart button and then you find your way in. But, nice, exactly. So what was that experience like? What happened and what are you like now? Folks, I have various ways. I have my ways of finding out about your meditation process. I have a Swedish nurse who I've trained to break into your home, get in there when you're sleeping and listen carefully to your night talking in the hopes that you'll spill the beans about what your meditation was like. But I only have one. It's payroll, it's expensive, travel expenses, COVID, all this stuff. So I can't find out what's happening with all of you. So what I'm going to recommend is an easier version of this, is to use your digital technology and reach out and tickle that keyboard. Or, if you'd prefer, to use the old, what's that thing called? The pie hole. You can jump on our Zoom and ask your question using your old meat mouth. That way I can actually get a little more nuance on what your experience was like, any challenges that arose. And part of developing a practice is being able to talk about and write about what happened in your meditation at a given point. If anyone is here joining us and you have any questions about meditation, listen, I have precisely one way of knowing that, and that is if you ask. Often people, I feel shy about asking their questions about meditation, but then once you get them rolling, it's like they have tons. So so let me know any questions about meditation here. We have a note that came in here from Coltaz. Coltaz says, is I've been listening to Shinzen Young's The Science of Enlightenment talk. I'm guessing you mean the audiobook that he put out in 2009, I believe. I found the bits about guided meditation suggesting finding the borders of the body intangible for me. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Oh, P.S. If anyone wants to jump on the Zoom, tell me, because we don't turn it on because it can mess with the camera. So if you want to jump on the Zoom, let me know, and then we'll go from there. Okay, here's what I'm going to say. Coltaz. Is that right? Am I saying that wrong? Yeah. No, Coltraz. Coltraz? Coltraz. It's pretty good. Okay, Coltraz. I always feel like I'm reading it wrong, and it's like, no, of course it's Coltraz, and it's like so ridiculous. Okay, so Coltraz. Here's what I'm going to say: this is something that seems like so intuitive. It's like, it seems. I'm so stammery. I just came out of this weird world, so I'm like very stammery. Okay, let's reassemble here. Okay, so when finding the edge of the body, we have a general sense. Clearly there's a sense that there's a body below you right now, right? You're watching this, there's a screen in front of you of some kind, and there's a sense that there is a body down below. You can look, yep, still down below. There's no sense that the mass majority of your body is above you, right? It's a sense that the body's down below. So we already have some geo-coordinates going. It's possible that finding the exact edge is difficult for you, which is exactly right, because the mind is producing the sense of an edge of the body. It is saying, okay, it is here. It uses some visual information, some touch sensation, and it says that it's here. But it doesn't need to be very precise, and the mind is extremely lazy. The brain is very lazy. So it'll just give you a vague sense, just enough so that if something feels like it comes near, it feels like maybe it's threatening your space, it'll sort of fire up a little bit, or something, you feel a sensation, it'll tell you where that sensation's happening. So the edge of the body is actually quite vague. So tell me if that answers your question. And noticing that vagueness is actually, you can get a lot of insight from that. Okay, sorry, my team here is telling me that I should not discourage people from following. So if you're here and you haven't hit the heart button or the follow button, do that. It means you can find out when we're going live or when we have special guests or that kind of thing. Nick oh no, sorry, this is Nate says, how in the hell am I supposed to manage this reality of continuous bombardment and passing away of all of the senses in and out, data moment to moment in my everyday life? So here's the thing, is that well, I'm guessing that's slightly rhetorical, so I'm not going to take it too seriously. I mean, I'll take it seriously, but not, so seriously. Oh, and you say, and beyond that, and then what? As they say, and then what as they pass away? So basically, we get a sense of what this experience is like, the arising. Arising is honestly perfectly valid, rather than having to focus on arising and passing away. People often get really hooked on this thing, like, I read it in a book, it's supposed to be like this, but keep in mind, a lot of those writings are meant for teachers, they're not meant for students. If you really watch arising and watch what it is arising out of, which is the same emptiness that, things pass away into, you could say, you can get just as much insight, maybe a different flavor, but either way, it's this sort of the becomingness of this particular moment. So right now, I can tell you right now. So right now, can you experience this moment as new? This moment as having, arrived or come together in a way that it hadn't before. This moment being particular and special because this set of perceptions, this set of arrangements of these objects are new. Great, you're done. You don't need to go any further than that. It doesn't have to be some like magical, it doesn't have to look a certain way. So if you can experience this particular moment as new, you're there. You've already crossed it off the list. Then if you want to actually dive into the passing away part, that newness, in order for it to be continuously new, which it has that quality, it's new again. Forget what I was saying before. This moment is brand new again. That moment a second ago has to decay. So if you take a freeze frame of this particular moment and notice it gets replaced by another moment. Okay, freeze frame. And then it just, another moment seems like it just is like, nope, I'm new, nope, I'm new. All it is using your periphery and your felt sense of what that previous moment was and watch it no longer hold existence, right? Because this other one is so insistent. I'm existent, I'm coming into consciousness. And that thing is the sort of more gestalt experience of passing away rather than the sort of tiny sense experience of passing away. But you could do the same thing. You could just watch tiny senses in your hand and watch them sort of be there, which most of our labeling or meditation is actually watching things arise. So then we're watching them collapse back in this particular way. Hopefully that helps. Gene says, I'm going to have to play this one back when my mind isn't jumping all over the place. I am still glad I sat, and fortunately my mind was thinking about exciting things, not worrying ones. Well, excellent. Hey, as long as you have a good time, that's all I'm worried about. Coltraz, let's see, or you can call me Chris. Right. If you remind me, Chris, Coltraz means Chris, my brain will eventually decode it in that way. Scully Murder 69, thanks for the Tayshawn. That means something I don't know. Gotta go. All right. Someone who, well, I'm like, oh, I get it. He's talking about the meditation. Nice lingo there. I had not heard that. Thank you for being here. Nick says, Friday vibes from Karlstad, Sweden. Just caught the end of the meditation. If you could elaborate a bit more on the mind constructing time, if there's time, lol. Coltraz, also known as Chris says, yeah, that helps. Thank you, sir. Well, excellent. We still haven't figured out which thing keeps putting... Oops, nope. There's a command that keeps getting put in here, which is asterisk, exclamation point 7. We don't even know which computer program is putting that in here, but it does it every like 15 minutes. So those are the guided meditations it's trying to put in. Could I elaborate on the mind producing time? It's a little tricky because I'm not suggesting that there is no such thing as time. I'm not suggesting that there is no such thing as matter, because we actually have to, in a way, separate out the perceptual real and the sort of material real. Material real is basically what we're talking about in our science class, what we're talking about, what most people are referring to is the sort of material real. From a perceptual perspective, the rules change pretty noticeably. And so it gets hard because we're like, but if the perceptual experience is different than the, oh, my puppy is whining, I wonder if she probably has to go out. I'm going to ask my wife, hey, babe.
She wrapped herself around a chair.
Oh, she wrapped herself around a chair and she's stuck. Poor little lady. Do you want to release her? I want to see an arising of my puppy appearing. Will you send her over here? Yeah. I want to have her say hello. She's never good on stream. She always goes crazy as soon as she gets on camera. I don't know why. Sila! Come on. Okay. So, so if the perceptual is different than the, sort of consensual general time experience. Hey, Sila, come to me. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Okay, got your butt. Here you go. There you go. Hi, Shmoopy. Look at this little lady. Look at her. See, I hold her butt. That's what Raquel's like, you gotta hold her butt better, but I am fully on holding her butt. I'm getting totally in there. Oh, she's okay today. Hi, little lady. Let's just have a stream with me and you, and we'll just schnoogle with all our friends, and we'll meditate on the good feels that arise. So if you can notice any good, I notice some good feels arising from just the mere presence of this little. Raquel and I always talk about her like this little dummy, like it's sort of more, it's affectionate. This little silly being. What do you want over my shoulder? Okay, we're gonna make you into super dog before you go. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. Look at her. Look at this super dog. She's such a sweetie. Look at this sweetie. Okay. What? Oh yeah, Raquel likes this game, this gag that I do, which is, see if I can do it because I need several hands. Okay, so I hold her. I'm like, Sila, no, you can't do that. No, oh, no, oh no, Sila, no, oh Jesus Christ, don't beat me up. No. Okay, little girl, get out of here. Go poop on something. Oops. Okay, interruption there. Hopefully that was fun, as fun for you as it was for me. Okay, so we have these two realities. We have these two sort of ways of experiencing the world. We could call it, sort of public, public time or public, reality, and then there's the perceptual reality. If there's a difference between the two, typically we just default at what we'd call public, perception. Time is, time's a real thing, and objects are very real. However, by tuning into the perceptual experience, we get all of the freedom of the sort of subjective, transcendent experiences. So, time, we could say time is real in a sort of collective, agreed upon way, but perceptually, the system is producing time. So, in a way, they're like two different categories. That is like, the mind is very good at creating a kind of parallel version of things in order to make sense of things. So like the mind produces inner seeing, it produces a sense of space in order to navigate objects. So space between objects is not definitively real. Like these are close. Like this object is small. Like it is not small. Right, this object is small in relation to the body, so the body and the mind produces a lot of qualities that it categorizes as very real, that are very much produced in order to make sense of this body's experience. Things are small because they're smaller than the body. Things are sharp because they could cut the body. So those attributes are actually very much contingent. They are not literally sort of bound to those objects. So with that, we now get into this realm of the mind producing time. Time, as we were watching today, is a sort of entryway into the arising and passing experience. We started talking about it a little bit at the end, but I'm curious from people's experience because we were talking about time flowing by. And I didn't want to get into it because it would add a layer of complexity until the end. That for most people, the sense of time moves from right to left. This is because of the way we read. Time sort of moves from the upper left down to the lower right. And that's the way sort of it seems like directionality works. We know this pretty concretely from the history of painting, that things that move this way tend to feel like they're moving forward. Things that move that way tend to feel like they're moving backwards. and cultures that read differently, it's different, and their artwork will actually reflect that. So the danger with an arising and passing model of experiencing this stuff is it can solidify the sense of an observer, which is sort of, to some degree, what happened, sort of for me at least, this rushing by of time, sort of moving by, and I was like at this point observing, right at this threshold. So the way that we break that apart is using what Shinzen Young talks about as a expand and contract model, that it's actually just pressures. So even the sense of there being a center is, it requires an experience of sort of something localized, a pressure that, you know, the mind says here is the center, and it requires a sort of difference outside of it. Okay, this feels like center, this feels like non-center, or it's sort of pointing in this direction. So all we need to do with the mind is sort of zoom out a little bit and allow that pressure to be there without anything to necessarily cling onto, and its centerness sort of breaks down. Awareness will just melt away the edges of those, and then we're tuning into just this sort of sense of pressures and different expansions and contractions in sort of omnidirectional way. So for me, that was a big breakthrough in my practice, because I'd gone through a very intense and significant arising and passing experience, as they call it. And Shinzen, I was just before I went to a retreat with Shinzen, and I sat down with him, and he was like, oh yeah, that's a kind of standard, you know, or classic sort of description. And in his early talk in one of the in the retreat, he talked about that can solidify a sense of center, and all of a sudden something cracked, and like, you know the classic weird stuff, time starts turning off and on, and all this weird stuff starts happening. So without a need for a center, some really groovy stuff can go down. Let's see, Nate says, so how do you allow it? How do you practice allowing it to decay without all of those snapshots filling your short-term memory to capacity, and thus being unable to do anything else? Again, you're asking, how do you observe passing away, given the fact that arising is so predominant? Well, there's two things. One is you don't need to actually observe passing away. If you observe arising clearly enough, that'll actually be enough. So just because there's a sort of popular way of meditating that involves watching things pass away, and that's an exciting thing, and you know there's that, doesn't mean you have to in order to get very deep insight. Two, just noticing things end. You know what I mean? Like, watch, I'm going to bring my hands together and they're going to make a sound, and then that sound is going to end. Right? It's not more complicated than that. So when we observe things collapsing, watching that over and over and over and over again starts to train the mind. Oh, you can observe something's absence. So that involves some herein to some degree. It involves some sense of something being present and then it not being present. So I'm going to leave it there, because we could get into this for a long time, unless you want to get on the voice stream, and then we're going to then I can maybe answer a little bit more clearly, because I don't want to assume your meaning generally. Okay. Coltraz, also known as Chris, watch it. It can think. It can learn. Whenever I use impermanence as my object of focus, I try to focus on the end of things or the falling away, but I often naturally focus more on the rising of things and try to focus on the falling away. And trying to focus on the falling away is more difficult. So I like that you pointed out how our minds are used to seeing arising. Very cute dog. Well, thank you. I'm glad the dog was cute. So it is just a matter of training. This sort of gets to what Nate was saying, that there's the arising, there's the passing away. Let me think here. Beep, up, up, beep, up, up, up. Is the mind is very good at observing contrast. So you know this, anyone who's tried to meditate before, an early meditation, right? Let's pay attention to this little thin sliver of our perceptual data. Let's pay attention to the breath, or the breath at the tip of the nose. Well, what lights up as soon as you pay attention to this one thing? Well, everything else, right? People don't say like, oh my God, I had this great meditation. Suddenly I could notice every sound, and I could notice the dog barking and the sensations in my body and my mind bouncing. I could see it moving from thing to thing. It was incredible. It was so vivid. They say, I failed. I didn't do this one thing. I had one task and I couldn't do it. It's because the mind is very good at exploration, and it often bases that exploration on difference. And so the mind is very good at showing us difference. It's a very good at sort of the Where's Waldo approach of, perceiving. So all you need to do in order to notice or tune the system to notice the passing away quality is to sort of kind of juice the mind. Like you kind of like, you troll the mind. You just say like, all there is this arising moment. We can do it now, right? All there is this particular moment, and it will never end. And immediately, at least for me, the mind shows you like, screw you, it'll end. I'll show you it end right now, so that you can do it again. Be like, all right, mind, this is the one moment, it's never going to end. And the mind very quickly says, screw you, it just ended, right? And so now you're tuned into the ending of it. So you can hotwire the mind using what I call the rule of contrast to make it observe the other thing. So that's just one trick on sort of how to get the system tuned in that direction. So hopefully that's helpful. It works very well from my experience. Rory said, I feel like time is coming towards me and passing behind. Great. And that's another just spatial arrangement. That's exactly, that often happens. People have the sense of it moving forward. Most of our operating most of our organic operating system, the eyes, the mouth, the senses are facing forward for obvious reasons, for survival purposes. So the mind will tend to produce most of our imagining and this kind of thing in front of us. So there's a sense that reality happens here and we're moving through it. There's a sense of forward momentum. So that's totally another way that the mind can perceive time. Okay, I'm not even going to say the name. It's not Kip, it's not Cat, it is, help me out here, Chris with a K. Okay, Chris says, same here, Rory, like driving into the present at high speed. Exactly, yeah. So that's a spatial arrangement the mind has embodied and now is sort of producing the spatial arrangement. But remember, for anything to have any sense of location, it needs to have an environment. So for the sense of space to be moving in any direction, it has to sort of be clamped down by the mind. So all we do is open that up and notice, oh, look, there's a set of pressures that seem to be going in this direction. And suddenly the breakdown, the sense of pressure sort of breaks down. And now it's just a sort of less directional experience. We're entering into a kind of expansion-contraction model. Annie says, is the arising and passing moment the same as stream entry? So this is a bit of a contested question. And the general consensus currently is that no, they are different. However, and this is why there's a little bit of contest, if we experience, I mean, honestly, this statement I'm about to make is a little ridiculous because it works too well for too many things. If we experience the arising and passing experience or expansion contraction experience deeply enough, the system, the body-mind, loses its sense of foreground and background because everything is going through this process. Everything is sort of appearing and breaking down. So the solidity of self is broken down to such a degree that it can no longer rely on that sense of solidity anymore. And we've entered what you might call the no turning back point. Now, Shinzen at times has talked about this as the figure ground reversal. So there's arguments that say this is the beginning of awakening. And then some people will say, well, this is, awakening if we look at it as an arc rather than a moment. And then there are those who say, no, it's just a sign that you're moving in that direction. But it is often the case that is the no turning back point. So it's typically, if we're sort of guiding in a traditional way, using a sort of progressive insight type map, which Annie, you know from the progressive Shinsight class that I'm teaching right now, before anything like that happens, you want to be very clear on informed consent and knowing, okay, what am I getting into? What are the possibilities of challenges or dangers here before you get to that place? That's very important. The general sort of, from that model, the general consensus would be that no, that is not the, that would not be where stream entry occurs. That would actually be closer to, we could say, the middle of the path, and that stream entry would occur with the experience of cessation, the full collapse the full system effectively being pulled into the emptiness of gone, where there's no arising, there's no passing. It's non-time. Time is not like a factor, and often, and actually even that is not considered. Would not be considered the point of awakening. Actually, it's considered after that, when things reform and the system is now fully seeped in the knowing that it doesn't need all of this arrangement, and that all this arrangement is, I want to say, optional. It is a version of existing. And so it becomes, there's a huge amount of liberation because it doesn't require that the arrangement that we typically experience as the world being a solid inside and outside and these kind of things. So hopefully that answers your question. It's a very strange, it can get a little weird when we're getting into this territory. Okay, folks, so any other questions, reports, difficulties, challenges as they arise? Okay. So what I wanted to do, just for fun, actually, I'm going to do this on Monday. I don't want to do this right now. I want to do this on Monday, damn it. I'm going to do the beginning meditation. Unless, actually, P.S., if there's anyone here who's waiting for the beginning guiding meditation, beginner's 10-minute guided meditation, tell me now. Otherwise, I'm going to postpone this till Monday. Most people might be done with meditation before the stream so far. If you'd like to support the channel, a few ways you can do that. You can hit the follow button right now. You can also, you can, if you have, what is that thing, Amazon Prime, you can go on Amazon Prime, and that supports the channel. You can support one Twitch channel a month. You have to renew it yourself, but you don't have to watch commercials then, which I always feel terrible for folks when they have to watch commercials. How should we write the time codes? Okay, so that is an interesting that's an interesting question. Right now, we're basically trying to cut things into sections and packages. What our person who's helping us does is they take when somebody asks a question or makes a comment. The problem is that someone will make a comment in the middle of an explanation, and so now I have a 5-minute rant that is cut right in the middle with a time code, which doesn't make any sense. So partially what we have to figure out how to do, okay, this is what would be ideal, and this is not something I expect from anyone in the world. But what we'd ideally have is if folks can watch again and say, okay, this is the beginning of this explanation, and find the points that are interesting so that people can navigate through and say, oh, that was interesting, and find those along the path easily. So that is my general breakdown of what we sort of need to find something to do. The problem is our friend and support folks in India, they don't know this material terribly well. So we're a little bit stuck in this weird limbo where Raquel and I can go back and watch every one of the live streams and find out those interesting points. But really what we need is folks who understand the material well enough to see what was interesting, to then say, okay, time codes were here, here, and here. And you can just leave those in the comments of the playback on YouTube. That's the key. So right now what we're trying to do is anytime I did something that was interesting here on stream, we would do this. We'd do TT and then a back arrow. So that would mean I just said something that was interesting, and that would tell our people, hey, time code wise, something was just said that was interesting, and maybe even what it was. Okay, explanation of arising and passing. How does the mind construct time, or something like that. And they would know, hey, you got to find the beginning of this explanation. Ideally, also, whenever I started talking, which is I don't know what I'm going to say, so it's hard to figure this out, I would do this, TT, and then a forward arrow, saying I'm about to say something that is significant, and that would be a time code, and then we would name that after. So, again, this is tough, but if we want people to have access to these videos so that they're really interesting and really compelling, and we have a community that has access to this material, we do this for free because we think this is valuable, and people say that it's valuable. But this is partially, it's like people can't enter our archives without being totally lost because it's just, oh, well, I guess I'll watch 5 hour-and-a-half long streams. It doesn't really work that way. So this is trying to make things a little more bite-sized for folks. So thank you for that question, and we're fully open to any suggestions or ideas. Another thing you can do, which I just found out about recently, is right here on the video, if you scroll up to your video and hover over, in the bottom right, there is a little clapperboard, you can clip that and take, I think, a 60-second clip if I said something that's interesting, and then you can submit clips. So that's a different thing than Timecodes, but it's a way for us to find out when I said something interesting, because hell if I know. I'm basically, I hit stop on the stream and I'm like, oh, I guess I still exist. So yeah, any support in that way is helpful. Any ideas are also helpful. Folks, before you eject, before you hit that get me the hell out of here button, I have something for you. I have what I like to call a wish. So in this particular moment, noticing the gorgeous, luxurious nature of our living experience, watching this phantasmagoric world of seeing, hearing, and feeling come into consciousness. And letting this particular new moment be our teacher, letting this new moment be the thing that shows us how we might renew our existence in the preceding moment. In this moment, how do we treat this moment as new? How do we treat this moment as new? And over time, we're teaching the system to fall in love with the unique nature of this particular moment, this instant. Having fun with that, enjoying the experience of coming into, arising into existence over and over again. This teaches the system to be primed for what is happening in this particular moment, which gives us incredible leverage at transforming our lives. So, folks, as always, practice well, take care of each other, have fun, and we'll see you very, very soon.